Hi, everybody. This is Donna Reed. I am with Up With People, Cast A 1976, and I'm super excited today to have John Fedynich with me. I don't know John well. I just know him through everybody else and through his travels and work. So, John, welcome. Thank you for taking the time.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to start this with, kind of the proverbial, when did you travel? Did you stage in Tucson, Denver? Where'd you see a show? Tell me about your start related to Up With People.
I am originally from New Jersey, and I saw a show. Actually, I'd seen a show when I was 18, and then when I was 20, I believe, we also hosted. And
Okay.
so it was through the hosting situation that I got more interested. But I did go see a show and then decided I wanted to interview, but mostly for the performance end of it, not really understanding the experience of the travel and also the host family and community involvement. So I did travel in 1986, Cast C.
Okay.
And then I went on staff after that for Cast E 1987. And then I went to Cast D of 87, left for 2 years, and then finished my education, and then came back and traveled for 4 more years for a total of 6 in Up With People.
Wow.
And so I had the experience of not only Tucson, but Denver staging as well.
Oh, you were in that transition of where they relocated. That's
Yep.
interesting. Well, when I started these and I, did that sheet that I sent you, I was like Denver or Tucson. And then when you start interviewing those people from the 60s and the 70s, they were all over the place,
Right.
So like you have no idea where they might have staged.
But it was actually, so we had my student year, and the year of staff was Tucson, but then we started in Tucson, and then we were part of groundbreaking in Denver, and then the following staging we were there.
Okay. And what did you do as staff? What were your jobs?
I started in merchandise, and then promotion rep, marketing manager, and then an assistant cast manager.
Okay. And so it's interesting. I think you're the first person who has just honestly, openly admitted that to begin with, it was the performance that attracted them to this. So how old were you at that point when you were interviewing? And
I probably was either 19 or 20.
Okay.
So I had been active in my theater in high school, and then I was working part-time and going to school part-time. I ended up studying acting on the side. And so it was about the performance aspect. Yeah, the traveling was something that I was interested in, but I think it was obviously the performance that really attracted me, knowing that it was going to be an international experience. And so I may have lied in my interview and not said.
Wow, true confessions here today.
But it was something I was interested in doing.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear that, because as now Up With People looks to see, will they even be called Up With People? Like, what does the future look like? The performance piece and the host family piece are pieces that have been super important through the years, right? And I don't care what anybody says, there's a whole lot of people that want to perform, right? Whether they just came out and stated that when they interviewed or not, some people just want to get out of their houses, but that's really fascinating. So in those years, one of the other things that I try to find out is there a song or two that has stuck with you, impacted your life, recurs just randomly? You're out traveling the globe in your current job, which I'm anxious to talk to you about, but tell me what music has affected you through the years.
Yeah, music from our show?
From our show, from Up With People.
I think the two songs was actually Song of Peace, and then We'll Be There. We'll Be There being the ending song of our show. And that has sort of been a theme of our cast, even outside of Up With People, and just whether we've had small gatherings or our just general reunion, it's always been focused about we'll be there, we'll be there for each other.
That's super cool. I interviewed Tom McKinney the other day, who was also in this 80s time frame, and he talked about Song of Peace. And because of the diversity across the years, there are kids that traveled, like my son in 2013, who may or may not have ever known that song, right?
Right,
So
right.
unless people come to reunions and things, and I feel like I've been blessed to live in Tucson and be at reunions and learn a lot of the ones that I probably wouldn't have. So, all right, you mentioned your reunion. We have a reunion. My cast has a reunion coming up. There's about 20 of us. You just had 60 people or something like that?
It was almost 70.
That is
And
fascinating.
yes, and now I will sell you the details of how to get 70 people there.
Okay.
But
For a mere pins to for your nonprofit that you're supporting yourself.
well, this is funny. I was doing a wrap up and sent a note to the cast, just appreciating everyone for showing up. And I told them that I'd been asked by a couple of alumni about how we were able to get so many people there. And I told them, I said, one, you have to be able to have a fun and amazing cast that
Yeah.
want to get together.
Yep.
And two, you have to have a committee who is willing to bend over backwards to do whatever they can to get people there. And then I think my third point was either have a lot of alcohol. And then my fourth was read number one, which goes back to making sure you have
An amazing time.
cast. So
this was your first cast, right? Your first year group that just
it
got
was
together?
my first
Okay.
cast. We've always
Okay.
had a decent turnout over the years, but when this year we actually had a photo of one of our from our 15-year reunion, and it had only like 16 people. And so I had shown it to everyone while we were there, and I said, look at the difference, you know, from
Wow.
15 years ago to what was technically supposed to be our 35th year, but got canceled because of COVID.
Right. Right.
Our 36th year, to have almost 70 people there. And when we started talking about it, I got together a few people just to decide, did we want to do Tucson or Phoenix,
Yeah.
or have something on our own? And I should have based the excitement from the response that we got. Within 24 hours, I probably had about 50 responses of what people wanted to do. And that was the majority wanting to do something on our own for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, at that point, it was, well, that's what we're going to do. So then we divided and conquered as to where it was going to be. We had the Europeans help us decide what was going to be less expensive for them to travel to.
Yeah.
Then a couple of the Americans as to where in the US it would work. And then we looked at Airbnbs, and we've always joked about having a reunion in a castle.
Yeah.
And when we pinpointed the Washington DC area, it was because we had train access, we had multiple airports, and
Yeah.
the Europeans told us it was fairly inexpensive.
Right.
I think one of our someone coming from Ireland paid like 400 euros round trip. So it just made sense. And
Yeah.
then we started looking for where it was going to be. We found it. We found a place on Airbnb that was listed as a castle. So everything was falling into place. But it was about having a group of people who did outreach. We raised money to help bring people in. And we had someone as far as Australia come in, Thailand, and we had about, I think it was 11 countries represented. And it was the most moving experience that we had, and just surprised. It's like you never really know, right? You never really know what an event is going to be like.
The first time, right?
And that was my concern: is were people going to have fun? Were there people going to be sitting in a corner like sometimes I am at events where it's like, how much longer do I have? And those are events that last a couple of hours. I have a fly here. And when I got there and saw, we were in a 10,000 square foot space that we also housed people, in addition to a hotel we had and some other houses. People having side conversations And there wasn't a moment where people looked like they were bored.
Like
If
they were on the outside or something. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Not at all. And if I saw anyone in the corner, I think it was just to get away from, to have a moment of peace,
Right.
but that was it. Otherwise, it was conversations from beginning to end.
That's
And
awesome.
one of our key points over the weekend was to not really have it very structured, but we did have some structure to it. We had our food crew. For those casts that traveled later, I'm not really sure if food crew was a term that was used.
Not exactly, no.
Yeah, but back when we traveled, we had a food crew made up of castmates that put together our meals. And so we did something similar over the weekend with one of our castmates actually being the chef. And so we had quality food all weekend long and made by our friends. And it was really, really great. So it was a big event. It was better than I ever thought it was going to be, but made up by people who really wanted to be there and made up by people who made it financially possible and who are willing to bend over backwards to organize it so that it became successful.
So I'm 10 years ahead of you, right? 76. And when I think about the life steps that we go through, the young first job, can't afford it, maybe, depending on the 5 year. And then the next thing, people are having babies. And then the next thing, their kids are whatever. I mean, and now we have the half are retired, not all of us. I'm not retired. And now there's grandkids, like there's people on ours that want to be home in time to trick or treat with their grandkids. So you're fitting these things in to the middle. We were the end of the bicentennial year. So we only had about 6 non-Americans in our cast. And I have seen a couple of them. I was just in Belgium. I think, I was, in France crossing kind of just as you were finishing up and, heading home. And I have always been one that goes, but for me, what's been interesting is having been here and then served on the Board of Governors, that's the way my global piece has expanded. Otherwise, it wouldn't have. And when you were talking about the food crew, a number of years ago, the 84 group kind of started it. We did Midsummer in Sweden. I don't know if you're aware of that. And there were 94 people. Wow. And they ranged from the woman who arranged it, Karen Nyquist, and her sister Ava. Their parents were there, and then there was a 6-year-old there. And I was there because of my connection from the Board of Governors, not because I traveled in 1984. And I remember thinking all the work, but there was also food crews. We were signed up. You're in charge of setting up for breakfast. You're in charge of doing this. And that just created and built stronger relationships again. So I may have to get the name of that castle from you. I like that idea. I think that's really cool without,
it just worked. We had 20 people within the house just stay. I mean, the closets were so big that it became a single bedroom. And we actually became friends with the owner of the property who came to see us twice. And loved our idea of being together. But I just want to go back to what you just said, the word connections. And that is what has become so important for our cast is staying connected from when we left the road. And we were a very fun cat. Sorry about this fly.
It's bugging you more than it's bugging me, just so you know.
Yes. We've always been a fun group of people, and we just wanted to stay connected with each other. And we've had some tragedy within the cast. And
there's very few who haven't.
And we pulled together to help and support the individual or their families and just each other. And I think as we've gotten older, I think the idea of connections. And the one positive thing about social media is allowing the connections to continue to happen. But for us, the connections have been so important. And our Zoom calls during COVID. Our first one, I think we had 80 people on,
Wow.
and we started doing it monthly, and we were consistent with the number of people. Um, it sort of trickled off at the end, but we did it probably about 8 times and stayed between the 60 and 80
That's
person.
awesome.
And there's there's just a quality of the cast that I traveled with that every cast is different,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
but there's just something about my student year that I think for me personally, that's the group that helped change my life.
Mm. Mhm.
So that's why the cast has remained important. I've stayed connected with the other casts and students I traveled with, but for me, my student year is the one that had the most impact on me because it just changed my life. Coming from a small town of 10,000 people, a suburb of New York,
Yeah.
to be able to just have that life-changing experience.
It's interesting for me, John, because I'm from a town of 500 people. And if it hadn't been for the bicentennial, I would never have seen a show, because clearly they didn't perform in my town, but at my high school. Right.
Right.
And that was a town of about 17,000. And I traveled one year, and then I did costumes for 3 years, so I did a few extra things, but I know it changed my life too. And I remember being written up in the newspaper because nobody ever went anywhere like what I was doing, back then. Now people go everywhere and do everything, right? There's so many options. So I want to ask you about your work, because as you're identifying a place for your reunion, you also identify places for filming, right? And tell me, it seems like there's been a morph in your work and what you do based on me just watching you on Facebook. So tell us about what you do right now.
Well, currently I co-produce in television, production manage as well. But I got into film and television from someone I traveled with. And his dad did stunt work, and he connected me when I was interested, or when I decided to leave the road. I got connected with someone in New York who connected me with someone else. And I started out because I was told that my biggest strength was logistics. So
Oh,
I spoke to somebody who said location work would be the best place to start.
okay.
So I connected with someone in New York, and I started scouting locations for a television series. And that meant knocking on strangers' doors, telling them I'm interested in using their house, or at least getting my foot in the door to take photographs, to be able to present to the producer and the director to decide if they want to do something. And just stayed in locations for a long period of time, and then made my way up to what I'm doing now. And I'm actually in one of the trailers I use for my office when we're out on location. And we're currently at our stage. I'm filming in Massachusetts right now,
Okay.
on a show called about Julia Child, which is
Oh.
on HBO.
Maybe this is why we were in France so much. Huh?
Yes. And so it's our second season. So I'm here co-producing the show, and in the trailer in my office here, and along with a fly. And
Uninvited fly.
so that's
Nice.
I'm in doing this because of someone I knew through Up With People.
See, I think that's fantastic. I believe that if we listen and pay attention, the 6 degrees of separation that they say we have in the world, we probably only have 3 or 4 in Up With People. Like there's somebody of the 25,000 alumni in the world, there's somebody who's done it or is doing it. Or I'm going to interview a young lady. I don't know if you saw this the other day. She traveled in 2013 with my son. She lives in Italy. She's in Portugal right now. She's recycling umbrellas and making raincoats.
Wow. Where does she live?
Well, she's working in Portugal, but she's Italian. And my mouth is still agape. I'm like, holy cow, what a great idea. And,
That is
you know, yeah. And I'm like, the creativity. Now, I wasn't even Googling or looking for that. But as a person who cares about the environment and recycling and everything, I'm like, that is a fantastic idea, you know?
Right,
So
right. No, that's
I
great.
I love what alumni are doing, you know? So, I just have to tell you, this is totally unrelated. My last day in Paris, I took a macaron making class. I spent 3 hours with a chef making macarons. And now I know why they're $3.50 each. And then I spent my last night at the Hyatt before flying out of Charles de Gaulle. And I forgot them in the refrigerator in my hotel.
After all of that, that is crazy.
I emailed back to the hotel manager and I'm like, please just go to room 267 and get the macarons and eat them. They go, do you want us to send them? I'm like, no, just.
That's what I would love to do. That is take a cooking class in a
Oh,
place that we travel to. Yeah.
it was so, and he's a young chef who's in charge of making and designing new pastries for various restaurants in Paris.
Interesting.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so, alrighty. So, if you were going to tell me a place you haven't been that you really want to go, what would that be? Where would that be?
That is tough. You know, what's interesting, while I was in France and we had a couple of days off, I traveled to Istanbul, to Turkey.
I saw that. Yeah.
And that was one place that I've been wanting to go. It was a quick trip. I went to meet my partner who was there visiting his family. And, but I mean, there's so many places. I want to explore more of Italy. I've only been to San Remo, to Venice, and to Rome. But I want to be able to travel. And, you know, a friend of mine just came back from doing a safari, and I thought that would be fun. But I find that when I want to travel, and someone expressed this at our reunion about traveling, you know, it's not like traveling to places anymore. I want to be able to travel and be with people.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the things that I remember so clearly from Mr. Belk, is making places people. And wherever I've traveled to, that has been my goal. And so about going somewhere else, I want to be able to go somewhere where I can interact with people and not just the touristy things. You know, I'm okay with missing a museum. I want to be able to sit at a bar and talk to the bartender and find out about them. And I'm lucky that my partner is interested in doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's about going someplace where I can interact with the people. And that to me, you know, is our Up With People experience.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's also the scary part of being Up With People, because now you know so many people in the world that when things happen, it almost like tugs on your heart.
Oh, yeah.
You know, somebody in these places. You become more open to understanding about the places they live because of the people you know, but it's almost a big tug on the heart when something bad happens.
Oh, yeah.
You know somebody there.
The places do become the people. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When I was in Scotland and the trip started, I don't know if you saw this, but Grant and Gretchen Axton were there. John Ernst, who traveled before, he was getting ready to come there. I mean, this year my friends called it revenge travel. Everybody that couldn't go anywhere for a long time needed to go somewhere. And Up With People alumni just have been all over the place, you know, if they could this year. And it's been super fun to watch. Who knows who. And my sister-in-law always says to me, she goes, Donna, you hardly ever pay for a hotel. And I'm like, you're right. And that is the reason, because you go and stay with someone, and sitting on their back patio in Brussels or whatever is, to me, the experience, compared to, I've been to the Grand Place and that's cool. And it was fun, but now I just want it to be absorbing the culture on a small basis with the people.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I love
specific to any place that has dark chocolate.
Yeah. So when I mentioned Brussels. That certainly comes to light. It's so funny. My friend there, she eats super healthy, but I always come home with chocolate, like we're in a store, and she's sending
Yeah.
it to me.
Well,
Oh,
for our
funny.
reunion, the Belgians were only allowed to come if they brought
If they
dark,
brought
and they did. They brought a lot of dark chocolate.
like a prerequisite for coming to to the reunion. So, is there a food that you've eaten in your travels that you'll never eat again?
No, I'm not. I'm a very picky eater, so it was a little challenging to be on the road and eat whatever the host family gave you. But I knew I had to challenge myself, so I ate whatever was put in front of me,
Okay.
including whatever was given to me in Scandinavian countries that were perhaps raw fish that I never ate before, but yeah, nothing that stood out or stands out.
Okay.
Something, yeah. But
Anything you learned to love? Anything that you ate on the road that now you're like, oh my God, I love that, and I'll order it? Or
other than Belgian chocolate, I not really. No, not really. Only because I'm a
Okay.
picky eater and I'm
Okay.
pretty selective with what I eat.
Yeah, that is funny because I've been dating a man who doesn't like pumpkin, and
Oh,
I go to Trader Joe's and buy like
whatever.
10 containers of pumpkin biscotti, and I'm like, this could be a thing, you know,
Right.
like who likes what? So today's world, John, there are a lot of choices for kids. And I say the kids, you know, anybody up to age 29. For them to go and have a gap year and couch surfing and whatever. And we don't know, again, what the incarnation of Up With People might be. But if you were going to talk to 19-year-old John or to another person at that stage of life, what would you say to them about learning, growing your Up With People experience and taking advantage of this if and when it reappears?
Well, I will say that I am confused about what is happening with Up With People. I don't understand the new phase of the organization, but talking to myself at 18 or 19, I would say to have more fun and take more risks. And by taking more risks, it would mean to be more aware of what is happening in the world. And from that, take a year to be able to go and challenge yourself. Because it can be living out of a suitcase and traveling. It could be going to another country and doing one of those work programs where it puts you up and you're working in the field. It's working in an environment, being able to take a year off and working in an environment or playing in an environment that gives you the international perspective.
I agree with that.
So,
Thank you so much. There's probably not an alumni out there who would disagree with that. You know? And if they are, something's wrong. I don't know
right.
if they disagree. Well, I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to ask you to email me your cast, the years again, because I can't remember all of them and I didn't write them all down, and I want to add that. So I know this has been a challenge to fit in, and I appreciate you taking your time and sharing your secrets. I didn't pay for them, but it seems to me that our next reunion, I need to guarantee dark chocolate and a castle, maybe.
But also, you know, it doesn't, I just want to point out, reunions don't have to be 70 people either.
No.
Any reunion that happens, whether it's large or small, it's about the connections we had with each other. And what I found is conversations continue from where we left off, from the day we said goodbye. And that has been what has been so special about the experience. And again, we have a lot of mini reunions for our cast. And it doesn't matter. It's about just staying connected and getting connected or getting together.
I agree. So word of the day is connection.
Connection. Yes.
Yeah. Appreciate it, John. I'll be uploading this soon. Good luck with your production there and that fly that's flying around in your
Annoying. There has not been a fly in here all day until this moment.
Of course, be like. Anyway, have
All
a
right, thanks,
great
Donna.
day. All
All right,
right,
bye.
take care. Bye-bye.